Hello everyone, welcome to our first episode of the DevStandup. And guys, as you know that the purpose of DevStandups allows the IT community having the free microphone that can share their experience with other people across the world. And today we have guest Atakan Basaran. He's from Turkey and lives in Estonia, and he's in IT world like for a while. And today he's going to talk about his experience in a Capacitor, which he's gonna share like his personal project that he did, and we're gonna basically enjoy his workshop here. And guys, if you wanna be like our next speaker, please click the link below, and we have like the speaker form. You can fill it up, and our team gonna contact you, and basically we're gonna schedule our next workshop with you. So now floor is Atakan's, and let's hear his thoughts in the Capacitor.
Thank you, Abner. So, hello everyone. My name is Atakan Basaran. I'm working as a software engineer for the last 4 years, and before that, I worked as an independent or I'm into this full stack developer for 10 years now. And today, for the first episode of DevStandup, I want to talk about how to make your PWAs as a mobile when needed. So first, I want to start with what PWAs are. PWAs are basically web pages that can be responsive and where you can, without the networking, so you can download the web app into your mobile phone, and you can access to some mobile phone features such as the push notifications, logins, and everything, while keeping your tech stack in the web development world, so with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which also allows you to just run a hydration server like Vite and quickly test your changes, which gives you lots of fast developer iteration time. On the mobile side, the Android, if we compare Android and iOS in terms of the PWAs, the Android has the most strong support because it's essentially just running them on the Chrome browser. The user can be prompted to add this application, this PWA, into their home screen. And also you have full access to the service workers and push notifications while also keeping alive on the background. On the iOS, however, the only available option is through Safari with some limited but improving support. The user needs to add to the home screen manually, and there was no push notifications until iOS 16, which is released around March 2023. And background restrictions for the service workers are still existing, so there is no a way around them. So we used PWAs for a hobby project that we made, and our idea, and while we were developing it, we faced some these problems. The first one was the platform inconsistencies, where support for the PWAs was varying across the platforms, especially at that time. We started around 2023, and at the time, the iOS didn't have the push notifications. Google had some issues with the Android, had some issues with the splash screen and those things. And we then quickly came to realize that the limited native access, especially on iOS, we wanted to have this sign in with Apple prompt just coming right up, but we weren't able to do that, and we had to go through the OAuth flow, which wasn't supported back then. But despite all these, we continued working on this hobby project through the PWAs. And once we got into a working standpoint and we went around for people to install it, we quickly realized the biggest problem of all. We realized that the user awareness is the biggest issue with the PWAs today, because many users doesn't know about PWAs, and you can even install them. So on Android, you can at least show install this PWA to your home screen, but for iOS, user needs to specifically go to the share, press to add home screen, then run it there. And despite all that, when this happens, user also expects you to have a sign-in with Apple prompt coming up and things like that, which are not supported there yet. Which brings us to the second problem, the App Store discovery. So because PWAs are not on the App Stores, the user trust that we saw, that user didn't trust our application, especially when it asked you to, hey, go to this website to log into your Apple ID. because user just expects there, oh, I already logged into my Apple ID, why I cannot just go in? So to get around with the solution, we tried to first rewrite our whole application as a native app. Then quickly we realized that since this is a hobby project with 2 people and 1 software developer, the problem was we didn't have the manpower to maintain both platforms at the same time. So then we tried to go to the second best solution. We went to React Native, where you can just write on the single React code and it will go to the both platforms through the Expo or other bundlers. The local development was very great. You had tools, you can just save and it comes up there in real time with the Expo Go and such. But when we came to the non-local development, when it's time to test it, it wasn't so great. This was mainly due to we had to give to our testers this Expo Go, if you want to give them, if you want them to test them in real time, these changes, we had to give them Expo Go. We had to expose the reverse proxy to send them to their phones. And once we got to the part where we want to add the iOS to this Apple sign or Google sign in, we realized that these are not baked into the Expo Go. Now we had to go through the test flight and APK file distribution, which as a development runtime was very high, because on each change that we want to make now, to change the color of a button, we had to go through, change the color of the button, compile the application, send to people, and wait for it to appear in test flight and wait for it to appear in the Play Store, and over and over and over again. And we quickly realized that this was not going to work. This is not going to work the hustle when it's a hobby project and you need to just change the things on the fly. So the optimal solution that we wanted at the beginning was we were going to have just a VS Code. We were just going to have our VS Code web hosted in a server. Me and my friend can just go into the same machine. We don't even need to maintain this project on our computers. We were just going to make the changes in real time, and we were going to run a Vita server or something, and we were going to just put a proxy, and we were just going to see the PWAs on our phone or our devices, and also our testers. And once we are comfortable with this version, we were going to just build this web app and put it to the CDN, and it would go to the user's phone. This was the flow that we imagined, but it failed. So we wanted to still keep something that's similar to this. So we then said, okay, instead of publishing the CDN and send the user's phone, let's use web views. But we quickly come to realize that, we still tried it. We know this was not going to work out, but we got a rejection from Apple saying you are using web views. This is not a full iOS app. Just use PWAs, which is where we are coming from. So as a solution, we decided to use Capacitor. So Capacitor is a continuation of Cordova, but just to give a context, the Cordova was from 2011, 2012. It was a way to make a Android or iOS application using HTML. But given that there was no a big support for given the capabilities of the web at that time, it quickly faded away. But the Capacitor is a continuation of that with the support of PWAs, and when they come with the Expo-like plugin system, so you can have just push notifications, login SDKs, other SDKs just installed directly with a npm install script, which is what we wanted, because we want to keep we like the Expo development experience, but our problem was the distribution. And since now we can have lots of access to these plugins, we didn't have to implement this Google Sign and Apple Sign, and they were already available with the JavaScript SDK bindings, everything ready. And the since it is using the system's own browser as the renderer, as a web view, we were able to use the PWAs that we have. So to quickly how we converted an application, I want to show a test application. So in here I have a small Next.UI demo. When I run this, so in here I have my small PWA. And as you see, I can just press the login and it will open me the login prompt. Now, to make this a mobile app with the Capacitor, we had to first install the Capacitor core and Capacitor CLI. So these packages are the Capacitor core and is the Capacitor itself, and this Capacitor CLI will add a tool for your npx or npm to run the cap command, which is what we will be using to control the project. So I will quickly delete my previous config and just create a new project with npx cap in it. In here, I want to give this project the name first app. And I want to, since this is the first episode, I want to put com.devstandup.firstapp as the package ID. And once this is created, now I have a capacitor config.ts, and in here I can, if right now I'm using this folder and it's picked up a this folder, but if you have a different build folder for your PWAs, you can just put it there. Once it happens, I want to first add the Android project, Android support to my project. I had the previous ones here. Pxcap add Android. So in here, it will just create the project files for you, set up the Gradle, sync the Gradle, and sync this dist folder into the Android application. I also want to have an iOS application, so I will also create an iOS application. In here, it will also handle the whole CocoaPods installation and everything. And now I have my app here. I can run npx cap sync. First, I want to build this app. First, I want to build my web app, get it to the latest version to my dist folder, and now I can run npm cap sync to sync this web app into my Android and iOS applications. So after this, I can open my Android app, Android Studio, with this npx cap open Android command, and this will load me the project. The project is, let's wait until it imports, and meanwhile I will start my virtual machine. So the project actually, if you want, you can like add additional code to the Java code, but since it is bridged and it's all handled by the SDK itself, the Capacitor SDK itself, you don't even need to, if you want, you don't even need to open the Android Studio to develop it. You just for convenience, I am using it right now. And once I run it, okay, let's build it. Once I run it, now I have my application here as a Android app. And what about this login that we wanted to have? So in here, if I press, nothing happens because this is trying to open the auth flow, which is not supported on this thing. So we need to add the native Google sign-in capability. So for this, I want to use a library called, one of the plugins that the Capacitor ecosystem has is this Capco Capacitor Social Login, which has support for both Google and Android sign-in on the Google and Apple sign-in on both of the platforms. So after I added it, I want to use pull capacitor from capacitor core. The reason I want to do this is I still want to have my PWAs for our development purposes because we still want to continue our development flow through the PWAs, but we want to use this capacitor as the let's build the PWA and like publish it to the CDN. We want to change our flow to let's develop it, and once we're ready, we want to just publish this application. So to keep our PWA running in the same code without diverging it, I want to, if let's say I'm not on the, I want to still use the Google sign-in on my PWA, but if I'm in the Capacitor app, I want to use the native sign-in. So for this, I can use the Capacitor's native platform to check if I'm running in Capacitor. And when that happens, I want to use this function, which when I define, I'll just define it as a function. Yeah. So I want to call this. So now that we have these changes here, I also want to initialize this social login library, which I will just import it. Yeah, and I want to make another use effect where I would just want to initialize it at the time when I first just launch it. So now I will go to my Android project, sorry, the Google project for this Google sign-in. I will copy my client ID. For Android and on Android, the web client ID and Android client ID are the same. So I will just use the web client ID here. And I want to do like a social login. When the user presses this, I want it to log in with provider Google. And I want to have it options without an empty options because I just want to have the default scopes. And when the user is logged in, I want to show a message. And if not, I just want to show some error occurred. So after I set up these, I will just recompile my project. Run my npx capsync to copy this new project into both of the apps, and as you see it in here that it says, okay, it found this plugin and it says installing it. Since this plugin is like the Expo plugin format, it handles like plugins are also adding their like a manifest files and everything to your project, so you don't need to even open and add it manually. And after this, I will just go back to my Android Studio and just relaunch my app because it's already synced here. As you see, when I press this, I will get the Google sign-in prompt. And when I try to sign in, you see, I sign in successfully. So this is what we used for quickly convert our PWAs to mobile apps. We had the same flow in iOS too, but I just want to demonstrate the Android today. And essentially, this is how we did it. And I wanted to share it about if anyone finds in this situation for this episode. So thank you for letting me talk. I'm back to Elner.
Yeah, Atakan, thanks for your insights. It was really interesting, like to see also in the practice that how you just deploy this Android application. So I had a question that let's say this Capacitor probably has some built-in plugins. For example, like is it possible that like developers can also like have their own like custom plugins in the Capacitor or?
Yeah, so the social login one was one of the custom ones, and I don't know, like this is in this talk I didn't mention, but like if you ever use the React Native or the Expo, you have your plugin format, like you have your plugin format, your plugins JavaScript wrapper, and you have your Android code and your iOS code and your bridge code there. So they kind of follow a similar format on these versions. So you can just write it as similar like that. You can even port some.
All right. And also like one more question is that let's say like in the market probably there are other solutions as well to deploy like such applications. Like what's the kind of the thing people like should use Capacitor over like other technologies that exist?
I mean, for this, I'm mostly a web developer, so I cannot answer for the Android and iOS, the full development flow. But if we had time and it was like a full-time, full commitment project, I would be using like a React Native because I would took out this trying to make the application feel like a mobile, like a iOS or Android app on the HTML side. Now because I'm using the native components of the React Native, but this is like a two-person hobby project with one developer, so we wanted to keep because we already committed too much to the PWAs. We didn't want to lose all that time that we did there, and we actually and our testers already got familiar with the PWA testing flow, so we didn't want to lose that. Yes, we could have used the React Native, also allows you to metro bundling it, but now, for even to do that, we had to go and rewrite it on the React, so we want to keep our code. So I think this is more of a suitable for, you can use the PWAs to validate your ideas, quickly, and once you want to get into a second step, let's make it an application before fully committing it for a hobby project or things like that. I think it is more suitable for those people. Yeah, startups, or how I can say it, you just want you made an app, and you made a you made a HTML app and you want to give it to people. That is also one thing. Like, you don't want to, let's say you don't want to host this PWA in the 10 years down the road. If you want to just share with people, you can also do that. Like, for instance, you can wrap your small app, like a website or the web app, with this and publish to, the F-Droid or something. Like, you don't necessarily need to go to for the app stores or Play Store. We had to go that because that's what we saw from our testers. But if you had a hobby project and you don't want to host a website for it, but you want to have it as an Android app, for instance, in like a F-Droid, you can just publish it there.
All right, yeah. Thanks for your insight. I hope it was useful for other people as well. So guys, this was our end of first episode in our DevStandup. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, so if you feel that you are comfortable talk and exchange your ideas in some of the technologies that you are already using, so please just click the link below and fill the speaker form, and we're gonna keep in touch with you, and probably you're gonna be our next guest in our the DevStandups. So guys, thanks so much and have a nice day. Bye bye.